lawyers of Reddit, what is the dumbest thing your client has done to ruin a case? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Not an attorney, worked in a firm. Workers' compensation claim. Guy falls down at work and claims he injured many different body parts, shoulder, knees, back. We tell him to stay off social media. No problem, he doesn't use social media. At trial, he tells the judge he used to be a spin class instructor, but since the accident, he cannot teach classes anymore. Buddy Opa turns out, he continued to teach these classes after his injury. This was proved by the hours of surveillance the insurance company did, showing him teaching and vigorously riding in spin class. How did the insurance company know he was still an active instructor? The guy posted his full teaching schedule on his Facebook page. His potentially very lucrative claim was quickly changed to a fraud claim against him. Story 2. Client added 9 years to a short sentence. He got like a year or two for being involved in a drag race that the other guy crashed and severely injured someone else. Then towards the end of his short prison term, he tried to escape, got 9 more years for prison escape. He became friends with John Lennon's killer in New York prison, which was interesting. Story 3. Not my client, but the petitioner attorney's client. The man claimed workers' compensation and threw the kitchen sink at us, meaning he basically listed just over half of his body parts on the claim petition, stating that he injured each one. He was full of and my firm knew it. Anyways, we were going to trial, and the day before we ran one more social media search. This absolute posted a video of him winning a break dance competition that was only a few months after the alleged work incident. Never saw a quicker dismissal in my life. Story 4. Not an attorney, but one client of ours baffles me to this day. He had multiple cases, including aggravated battery and drug possession, at the insistence of dude's family. We moved heaven and earth getting him a bond so that he could get out of jail and live with said family until the case was over. The whole process took weeks. Less than a day after getting out, he was caught stealing $16 worth of batteries from Target. Bond revoked. To be fair, the line between stupidity and compulsion is blurred with this one. Edit. For anyone who's curious, we immediately ordered a psych eval for him. He was found competent, but it also confirmed what he had: mental health issues. The AEG BAT charge ended up being dropped and he took a plea for time served. Story 5. Not a lawyer, heard this story from a guy I used to work with. His brother-in-law got injured at work and was suing for a hefty sum. Case was pretty much open and shut. All the evidence was in the bill's favor, until the bill started talking. They asked him to tell them about the day of the accident. Bill started out fine until he gets to where he approached the piece of equipment that injured him. He tell everyone that there was a note on it stating that it was out of order. Bill then says that he discarded the note and started up the piece of malfunctioning equipment as he had a job to get done. That easy win was discarded faster than that out of order sign. Story 6. The worst ones are the ones who think they're smarter than they are when it comes time for depositions. Broad sweeping statements of how I would never allow discrimination in my office and how I'm 100% sure I never said that are a great way to destroy your own credibility. Set yourself up to get eviscerated by opposing counsel and ultimately turn a nuisance value case into something worth 6 figures. Moral of the story: if you're going to ignore the entire day of deposition prep I did with you just so you can protect your own fragile ego on the record, at least do me the courtesy of telling me to f off ahead of time. Story 7. I was defending a client who was accused of trademark infringement. Thought he knew better than the IP attorney assigned to his case, me, and so went on his company's website to defend himself by basically confessing to what he did and claiming it wasn't against the law, and the trademark owner was a woke baby who needed to either learn the law or get back in the kitchen and make her husband a sandwich. I wish I could say I was joking. I was one email away from negotiating a settlement that would have allowed the continued use of the complainant's mark with limited restrictions and a very nominal fee. Little to say, she saw his website, told us to go f ourselves, and dragged it before a judge. My client lost out big. His lack of self-control cost him thousands of dollars. Story 8. Not my client, but defendant posted a Facebook status along the lines of that he had taken care of business and the world is a better place because of it. He was charged with battery after putting someone in the hospital that had attacked his 14-year-old daughter. The person didn't have a clear memory of the incident, and other testimony later revealed the person beat up had an alibi for the attack in question. Most likely the girl had made up the story to avoid trouble from being out drinking underage, though we never got the full story. Anyways, the dad was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Story 9. My wife sat on a jury and had a similar feeling of lazy DA, thinking it was a slam dunk. Basically, defendant was an accused drug dealer. He was riding in his GFS car she was driving, and they got pulled over and searched. There was a backpack with a lot of illicit substances, cash, and a scale baggies in the back of the car. This dude had been convicted of drug charges before, so the DA heavily laid into that. They didn't do any actual legwork to prove the backpack was his. The defense was simple. He was riding in his GFS car and there was nothing tying him to the backpack other than a previous drug charge. The entire jury was pretty certain it was his, but the state didn't do any actual legwork to prove it was his. Less than an hour of deliberations, and he was found not guilty. Burden of proof lies with the state. Story 10. Had a domestic violence case. For months, we went to preparatory hearings and gathering evidence, and got restraining orders. By the time the trial was finally happening on the same morning of the hearing, the person I represented let me know she had gone on holidays with the defendant for a couple of weeks, and had grand old time. At that point, the opposing counsel approached me and told me he had lots of evidence of both the parties having a great time together. This, of course, doesn't mean abuse didn't happen in the past, but it really undermined our case, where we had little evidence other than some testimonials. At that point, I had to explain to her how even beyond strict legal rules, the judge would potentially change her mind once she saw the claimant was out partying with the defendant, for whom a restraining order was requested. We settled and avoided the trial. Story 11. AM criminal defense lawyer. Client arrested on DUI. Client lived in small town. He and his wife would drive to the one bar in town, drink, then walk to their houseboat after a night at the bar, 1/4 mile away. He and wife know everyone in the bar. Another patron they know gets blasted. Bar owner says she can't stay. Client and wife walk her to his car to stay there until ride comes. Client gets her in back seat of the SUV. Client is drunk, drops keys on the way to front seat, opens now unlocked front door, turns on car lights to see. He walked around the front from rear passenger. Cops are waiting to see if people leave bar drunk. Sees lights, says he saw driving. Immediately rolled up, arrests client. Client has prior DUI from 12-ish years before. Judge agreed that it wouldn't come in. Jury wouldn't hear it unless he opened the door. Can't win the case unless dude testifies. I prep him, continue to prep him, keep prepping him, but tell him under no circumstances can he say he would never drive drunk, never do anything like that. Basically anything about the past nom direct is going well. Gave him a beautiful, easy last question where he could explain the night. Explain why he was upset he got arrested, because he wasn't driving and was doing everything right. I would never do something like that. Door open, judge lets DA in rebuttal bring in old DUI. Jury took about 25 minutes to convict, and that's about one of 100 stories. Life is never dull in the criminal defense world. Story 12. My mother was in court as a witness in a case of criminal harassment between two of our neighbors. We basically knew that the case was ridiculous and a sham. The accused neighbor was totally innocent and was being falsely accused by the local troublemakers, who kept on provoking him and who then wanted to be able to sue him for easy money. Anyway, by pure coincidence, the defendant was secular Jewish, just like my parents. It's literally just a coincidence. The two troublemaker neighbors who were also there were very angry to see my mother in the court. One of them then stood up in the middle of everything and yelled some crap about how my mother is a Jew and only there because the defendant is a Jew, and Jews apparently always stick to help each other. The judge immediately ripped him to shreds and threw the case out. Story 13. I am a lawyer. I was cross-examining a slip and fall plaintiff on the stand in trial after like 2 years of litigation. We were going over some pictures he took when he let slip that the picture of the two signs was missing. I grilled him on what he meant until the judge chastised me for trying to conduct discovery during trial, which is supposedly not allowed. He had clearly concealed evidence though. We took a break for the day, and the next day he came back with the photo in question, which showed that he had walked squarely between two wet floor signs to go down the Kroger aisle that he immediately slipped and fell in. He did not recover any money in that one, despite the horrific defense venue. The judge who jumped all over me for exploring obvious evidence tampering was later appointed to the federal bench here in Atlanta. Story 14. Not an attorney, but I had a woman I arrested ask for a probable cause hearing. The charge was for escape. She'd cut off her GPS anklet and ran. And PC hearings for these sorts of things were very uncommon. Normally, only new public defenders use them, outside of a couple of other defense strategies for more serious offenses. Point being, there wasn't a whole lot of reason for having the hearing. She cut the anklet off. We had evidence of that, due to the anklet having been recovered. LOL. Anyway, not only did she want the PC hearing, she demanded to testify. Her public defender, a newish one at the time, strongly recommended against it. He went and got another PD, who had a good rapport with this woman. Obviously, she was very familiar with our criminal court, who again recommended that she not testify. Nope, our girl wanted her time on the stand, so the hearing goes forward. Before it started, even the judge strongly recommended the defendant not go through with the hearing. Well, she did. Her testimony was that she'd been taken against her will by her boyfriend and that her made her cut off the anklet, blah blah. I was called up as a witness, provided screenshots of the defendant's FB account, where she was shown with her boyfriend, smiling happily, enjoying time with him and her daughter, etc. All day time stamped, of course. Obviously, probable cause was found by the judge that a crime had been committed, and the case was sent to the grand jury for indictment. But actually having a judge tell the defendant that testifying was a bad idea was a first for me. Story 15. I'm not a lawyer. This isn't my story. But the lawyer who handled my business stuff and a legal dispute is a federal judge. Before he became a judge, he was a lawyer for divorces and civil stuff. A wealthy male client filed for divorce. There's a prenup. It's pretty ironclad. It discusses the distribution of wealth. The alimony, if any, is laid out at X amount, increasing yearly based on inflation. There's one major exception, and that is, if you are caught cheating. Cheating here is defined by any sexual contact with a person before the divorce is final. You automatically get the worst terms of the prenup. In the woman's case, if she cheats, she gets zero alimony and a one-time payment of $100K. In the man's case, if he cheats, he loses the main family home, all cars that are not his daily driver, and 1/4 of his business. A buyout option is available, but doesn't matter to this story. Lawyer gets to court and meets with his client in a conference room. And client is beaming. He shakes the lawyer's hand and says, "Hey, Mike, I want you to meet Jasmine. I met her 2 months ago. She's amazing. We got engaged over the weekend in France." And Mike shook her hand and slumped in the chair and said, "So, we got a major problem. You are cheating on your wife with her. And legally, this is discovery I'm required to hand over to the other side. Has all. How the f am I cheating? We're separated." Mike is all cheating is any sexual contact before divorce is final. It's an prenup that you wrote on your own. The guy flipped it. Ended up being so mad he ditched court, which gave him a default judgment, meaning she gets everything she asked for. Because of the cheating not showing up, the judge ordered that the transfer of money happen within 30 days. As part of the initial agreement between both parties, he is not there to contest it. So, blam. The guy ended up trying to sneak the company to the new woman via a trust. But it's an illegal move. He also tried to hide the money with her by giving her $1.1 million in cash, a bank transfer. But the judge stopped that once GE found out and required the woman to repay the money since she was given notice also. He fought for years and ended up losing money, time, energy, his business, house, 6-7 cars, and his new wife. Now, because I know his daughter from work, Hess, a retired angry man living in rural New Mexico. He can't afford to golf more than once a month, and he posts about how women are scum. Next morning edit, I certainly didn't expect this to blow up. Tie for the positive DMs and replies. I'll try to reply if I see any questions in the thread to clarify stuff. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.